Welcome to the Channelchek Takeaway Series. This program is provided for informational purposes only, and none of its content should be interpreted as a recommendation or solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investment decisions must be made by you or with the support of your financial advisor. A complete disclosure statement follows each presentation. Cocrystal Pharma, NASDAQ ticker symbol COCP, is a clinical stage biotechnology company discovering and developing novel antiviral therapeutics that target the replication process of coronaviruses, influenza viruses, noroviruses, and hepatitis C viruses. Joining us today is Cocrystal Pharma CFO and co-CEO, James Martin. Following a brief introduction to the company, James will be joined by Noble Senior Research Analyst Robert LeBoyer for a Q&A. Take it away, James.
Well, thank you for having us on your show. I appreciate it. Appreciate the audience interest in Cocrystal. I have a presentation which I'll summarize going through, so I may skip some slides. So we are an antiviral company, and what we focus on is creating drug candidates that have validated mechanisms of action. And we create these drug candidates off a proprietary drug discovery platform, which was created by our founders, part of which was one of our founders is Nobel laureate, and part of the founding of the company was for him to take what he had discovered and won his prize in, and to industrialize that into a platform which we now use to create all of the fantastic candidates that we have brought forward in the clinics. So some highlights about Cocrystal is we target multi-billion-dollar markets for both the treatment of acute and pandemic diseases. And I emphasize treatment to distinguish us from vaccines, which generally speaking are more of a preventative, where we are a therapeutic to treat these infectious diseases once you have them. Again, we have a proprietary drug discovery platform, which we've used to create our compounds, which we are displaying here today. Some of the highlights that we have on these are an influenza program. We have a PB2 inhibitor, CC42344, which just completed a phase one clinical trial and is getting ready for a phase 2A here in coming months. And we had great results from that. We also have coronavirus, an oral inhibitor, which we are currently working on a phase 1 for that. So we have a phase 1 influenza going into a phase 2, and we have phase 1 beginning on the COVID. We also, following the phase 1 on the oral inhalation program, we saw those results from the phase 1, and we are now having a influenza inhalation compound coming out of that same discovery there. So 42344 will be available in both oral and inhalation if all this plays out correctly. And we are looking to begin it's still on drug discovery. We're looking to begin a phase 1 next year. So we also have some protease inhibitors for norovirus, which, in case you don't know, there's no therapeutic or no vaccines out there. There's really nothing for norovirus. All they can do is treat the symptoms, which are really nasty symptoms. So moving on, we have an ongoing collaboration with Merck and for influenza A/B, in which we produce a number of compounds for them off of our platform. We turn these compounds over to them, which they are evaluating, and programs continuing towards hopefully selecting one of those for a clinical trial. And I think we're getting close there. We do have a seasoned leadership team. Both founders are still with the company. And on our scientific advisory board, we have 2 Nobel laureates. We have a very strong balance sheet. We have no debt, over 42 million last reported. And we have some exciting programs to move forward. So here's all of our programs. I think I did mention the first 3, which are the influenza A program, which we have both an oral and inhaled program, and then we have the Merck program. On the COVID-19, you'll see there CDI 988. That's the one we're starting a clinical trial on in Australia coming up in the next few months. The other two programs are further behind. Update you on those later. And then we have a neuro program, which is we call our bench program. It's up and coming, and we're going to select the lead for that. And as these other programs move forward, that will continue to move forward too. So a little bit about our influenza. It continues to be a multi-billion-dollar market. A lot of drug-resistant antivirals. A lot of the drug resistance in these antivirals is very prevalent in both Tamiflu and Xofluza. So there continues to be a need. The vaccines that are out there for influenza are very hard to predict, and therefore you continue to have a large number of influenza cases in the US and throughout the world. We target the PB2 inhibitor. What this is part of the replication process. If we can stop the replication of this virus, we can stop the virus. This is an essential area that we target, and that area is the same area that's in multiple family members of this virus. So when we stop this one area of replication, and we stop a broad spectrum of these viruses, so it's very difficult for the virus to mutate around what we've done. This is a little slide on the trial we just completed. It was a single center randomized double-blind study. It was placebo controlled. We did both single and ascending doses, and we had very encouraging results that came out of this trial. A little bit about the people report that were part of the trial. We also have on this slide that there's no adverse events reported in this trial. So one of the things that came out of the trial and some of the preclinical data is we took human lungs and treated them with our compound. And you can see the difference on the right, what it looks like between untreated influenza infection and treated influenza infection. That hair-like substance that you see there is what's needed by the lungs to work properly. And what you see there is on the top slide how a lot of that's been eliminated from the virus. And this is what causes a lot of the phlegm and a lot of the issues that you typically get with influenza. With our treatment, we have seen in human lungs that it's less destructive. The virus is less destructive, and we're just seeing a really great outcome. And again, this is what was so encouraging to us to go on ahead and make an inhaled delivery for this compound also, which will be moving forward. And that will be used more as a prophylactic, which will be used to help people that come in contact with the virus, to help them from getting the virus. So we'll have both a therapeutic to treat you when you get the virus, and then a prophylactic if you're in contact with people that have the virus to make sure you don't get it. This prophylactic only lasts estimated a week or two, so it's not like a vaccine that can have a long-term effect. But it looks like it'll be very effective from what we're seeing. A little bit about the program with Merck. This started in 2019. For the first 2 years, we created a number of compounds off of our drug discovery platform, in which thousands of compounds, in which we selected a smaller number, less than 100, which was turned over to Merck. And they have been studying this to figure out which one they would like to move forward into clinical trials. During the time of our side of the collaboration, which we created these compounds, they fully paid for all of the research. Now it's more in their hands. They're once they select the lead, they'll be the ones paying for the clinical trials moving forward. And along the way, we are slated to get milestone payments. And upon approval, we would get royalties on any sales. So COVID-19, everyone knows about it, multi-billion-dollar issue still, and it continues to evolve. As most of these viruses do, they become less deadly, but more effective. And that's what we're seeing now with coronavirus. And we do not predict that it will go away anytime soon. Currently, there are no therapeutics approved. There are some emergency authorization on some therapeutics, which have a lot of improvement available to them. So what we are creating is an oral therapeutic. Again, there's not one approved except for emergency use authorization. There's been a lot of vaccines. However, a therapeutic is needed. You really need what we call a 1-2 punch of vaccine and therapeutic to really suppress a virus. And that's the opportunity here at Cocrystal. And so we've gone through a number of candidates, and we've selected one called 988, which we feel has outstanding potential. And this is a inhibitor that works in the replication. And here on this slide, you'll see it's a highly conserved area in the CIS-144 residue. And that is broad spectrum across a number of these coronaviruses, including MERS, everything you see here. So it will be able to be in an area where we bind, which is necessary for all of these viruses. And thus, it would be hard to have a variant around that area because it's so critical. And also it's broad spectrum across a number of these viruses. So as this virus continues to mutate, we believe this compound will be very effective against the virus. So we have a clinical trial ready to go in Australia for our coronavirus. And it'll be very similar to what we did with influenza. So again, it'll be a randomized placebo-based double-blind single and multiple dose study. And we look forward to getting that started here real soon. Norovirus, briefly on this, it again is a multi-billion-dollar matter. And as I said earlier, there's no therapeutic or no vaccine available for this virus. Down here where I'm in Miami, Florida, we call it the cruise ship virus, but this can also disrupt anywhere where humans are in close contact, including the military ships. So again, this is the Wild West. There's nothing out there. All they could do is treat these symptoms. So we used our platform, came up with a number of antiviral therapeutics, and we are selecting which one of those to move forward with a lead. Again, we have a very strong management team with both Sam Lee and Roger Kornberg there at the top of the slide as founders. Dr. Roger Kornberg and Michael Levitt below him are both Nobel laureates. Dr. Roger Kornberg also is the chairman of our board, in addition to some very highly regarded and respected healthcare biotech business people. We continue to make sure that we patent and protect everything that we do. We know that once we have a hit compound that there will be a lot of challenges. So we're thinking ahead and have a very strong patent portfolio, all the work that we do. Company has a very strong, clean balance sheet. We had reported over 42 million. We have approximately 8.2 million fully diluted shares outstanding. All of that is common. We have no preferred shares. We have no debt, no warrants, and we have sufficient cash to keep this company with all of these programs funded through 2024 without raising additional capital. So we're in a very strong position. And I'll just conclude with that and open up to any Q&A. Thank you.
That sounds like you have several antivirals that all act early in the viral replication cycle, targeting an enzyme that can stop replication of the virus and is highly conserved so that it would be effective against multiple strains and any kind of viral variants that might emerge in the future.
It's exactly right, Robert. Thank you.
One question for you about CC42344. Could you tell us how that compares with other influenza antivirals that are in development or on the market?
Sure. So, the most famous one is probably Tamiflu that's been out there. It's been over 20 years. It's out of patent. It's seen a number of variants that have developed. And because of that, there's a need for an additional treatments out there. So one of the unique things about it's a single compound drug, Tamiflu, and yet when many viruses, like HIV and Hep C, and there's been a number of what you call compound cocktails, where you'll take multiple compounds and put them together for different mechanisms of action, actually stop these viruses in their tracks. So one of the things that we've held open with our compound is that we could combine with something like Tamiflu to create a cocktail therapy, call it Tamiflu 2, in which we could repatent it and go back out. And we could use a generic version of Tamiflu if we wanted to. There's a number of them available. There's also Baloxavir. So I think what makes us unique is that we do have a unique mechanism of action and where we inhibit the virus. And I think if we start looking at, it could be used as a single compound therapeutic, but also we're also open to the idea that we could combine it and use it with as a multiple compound cocktail therapy. So we're not quite there yet. Right now, it's just a lot of clinical trials and getting testing done, but everything's really looking good. So, we're really open to see where this goes, but we do know we do have a very good, strong, unique compound, and that's what we're focused on.
Great. And could you tell us about the upcoming phase 2A study in influenza?
Yeah, sure. So that's our, again, 42344. Just finished a phase 1. We had, very encouraging results. And we have already contracted with the CRO. HVivo is the name of them out of the UK. And what we're going to do there is a human challenge model. It's going to be a very clean clinical trial where you take healthy patients and infect them with the influenza virus. And then you wait to make sure that it takes effect on them. And then you give them the treatment and watch the reaction and log all this. And of course, they're in quarantine under a hospital setting and being very, very well taken care of. And a lot of data, a lot of clean, strong data can come out of this trial. We're looking forward to getting that done here this year. We've already funded for the program. We're applying to Europe at this moment, and we have the CRO already set up to do this human challenge model.
Great. What you're describing sounds like a setting where you controlled a lot of the variables that one would find in an influenza trial that recruits people who've been exposed in the community, so that they would have multiple strains and different exposures. But what you're doing is giving a well-defined strain, watching the progression of the infection, and then testing the drug. So you could probably get better, more robust data that way.
Exactly. I mean, you still, even in a traditional clinical trial, which is less efficient, will take longer than this. Well, this is a very efficient trial. You would still have to make sure that everyone you're testing has the same strain. So it's not like if in that trial, you have to find people. You're not sure where they caught it, but you do have to make sure they still have. If it's the H1N1 that you're taking in a trial, you have to make sure everyone has H1N1. You don't just get to use every different strain. So here, it's basically you know when they get infected. You already tested them for any antibodies to make sure that they haven't already built anything up in their system for this virus. And so it's very clean. So it really makes sure that's your compound that's helping them.
Great. And what will the endpoints in the trial be?
Well, we're always looking at viral load. It's always important. So what we'll do is we'll test for viral load. And we'll run this again, single dose, multiple dose. We'll really make sure that at the end of this trial that we do have the results for what their viral load is at the end of the therapeutic treatment.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit more about the program with Merck and when we can expect an update?
Sure. So again, Merck began in 2019. They came to us and we sat down, and the program is simple. We develop a number of compounds off of our drug discovery platform, which we all agree is, when I say we, us and them, all agree is really a very strong drug discovery platform. Then once we do that, so by the end of 2 years, so by 2021, we turned over all these compounds that were discovered, and this was jointly. We had regular meetings with them. We all kept up with the progress. We all decided which were the best compounds. And at the end of 2 years, we turned those compounds over to them. Now, it's almost like in cruise control for us, in that we're just getting updates from them and following up, but they are going through a lot of additional testing. They have a lot of resources, and they are testing to decide which of these compounds to move forward into clinical trials, which they have those facilities, set up. And, I just met with their head of clinical trials last week, and I mean, they are a machine. So that's what they do best. So we're not paying for any of that. I mean, we received some upfront money. They paid for all of our scientists and all the work. There was no expense on us for those 2 years, and now it's in their hands, and they're going to pay for everything. And as they move this along, we're getting up to under 56 million in milestones, and then once commercialization takes effect, there'll be royalties attached.
Okay, and moving on to COVID. The worst of the pandemic is probably past us, we hope, but new variants continue to emerge, as you mentioned. Why is focusing on an antiviral for COVID-19 still important?
So, in a way, it's always been important. I think the focus has been on vaccines, which is good, but it's almost surprising to us that there wasn't enough attention given the therapeutics, because you really need both. I mean, when you look at other viral diseases like HIV, Hep C, I mean, it's not the vaccines that are really stopping them. It's therapeutics on those viruses. So viruses really need, and we like to, and we're not, we believe you need a 1-2 punch. You really need both vaccines and therapeutics. So there are no approved therapeutics at this time. I mean, as there are emergency use because of the pandemic. They have a couple of emergency use authorizations out there, but nothing has been approved. So there's definitely a need to create antiviral compounds. It does take time. So these aren't, we created compounds. We didn't refurbish or reallocate any other compounds to these programs. And these compounds have been developed as a therapeutic, and they're showing, really strong results in preclinical. And we're going into clinical trials. We've already have the operations set up in Australia. We have a location there. We have a subsidiary, and we have already run through. They have excellent clinicians over there, and their CROs are really top notch. So we feel very comfortable, and we're going to be putting our 988 through that program, which is happening now as we're getting started. And we'll have that done by the end of the year, and look to immediately go into a phase 2 as part of the plan.
Okay, and we're still in a prolonged downturn in the biotechnology market, and looking forward to 2023, you mentioned some of the milestones. How was your experience at the J.P.Morgan conference?
So I haven't been to J.P.Morgan and a lot of people haven't, since the pandemic started. So this was the first time really going back. And I was excited and surprised that so many people showed up, and it felt just like pre-pandemic. So that was good. J.P.Morgan was in really good shape. I thought San Francisco looked pretty good too. However, there was this cloud of outside of the conference of this market, which has really been tough, especially on small microbiotech. There's a number of companies that we had seen and know that are struggling. Delisting has become a major issue for a lot of companies. The ability, we met with a number of banks. It's just part of our regular process, keep relationships up, and just in discussions with them. There's just a number of companies that are needing to raise money under these conditions. And raising money these days is apparently it's tough. They come with a lot of things like warrants and things that are really not under the best terms. So it's really a position I don't envy. At Cocrystal, we had raised capital before the markets deteriorated in anticipation that this would happen, and we have built up enough capital to at least keep us going for the next 2 years based on the programs we just went over, without the need to raise any additional capital. Now we are, speaking to government agencies, and there's potentials for non-dilutive financing. We also have the Merck that may come in with their milestones, but none of that is part of the estimate to get us through 2024. Currently, just as is with the capital in the bank. So again, J.P.Morgan was very exciting and good for us. It wasn't the best, I don't think, for a lot of biotechs that we saw there, small biotechs.
Yes, I would agree with you. The conference hasn't been held in person since 2020, and it was great to get back and see people in person again. It just adds something that you just don't get on a Zoom call. But I completely agree with your sentiments about raising cash and the small cap market for biotech companies. Here you have novel technology, several drugs addressing multi-billion-dollar markets, including influenza, both a treatment and a preventive, coronavirus, norovirus, and yet 42 million in cash. Your market cap is only about 18 million. It's about $5.13 a share in cash, which is far above the market price, which is a sign of market inefficiency and an undervalued company. So I look forward to hearing about these milestones coming up, and wish you the best of luck in achieving them. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
With more than 6,000 small and micro-cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple, then Channelchek truly is your trade. It's an investor community where you can access independent Wall Street research, advanced market data, balanced news, corporate videos, and podcasts. You can even register to attend in-person Meet the Management Series lunches, and to be part of the preeminent annual Small and Micro-Cap Investor Conference, NobleCon. And here's the best news. Since Channelchek is sponsored by the featured companies, premium membership requires no investment. It's absolutely free. So check it out. Log in today. Find out why Channelchek is North America's leading source of research on the companies that just may change the world.